Hello and welcome everyone to Tech Tuesday here on Northwest Digital News, and in partnership with SMB Nation. Harry Brelsford comes to us live out of Austin, Texas. Harry, give us an update. What's going on at Spice World?
Hey, man. Well, first of all, let's start with the outside and we'll work our way into the inside. So outside, my friend, it is still in the mid to upper 90s. People are starting to say this is a little longer summer than they're used to. Quite frankly, it's okay. We've had a spell of rain back in Seattle, so I'm down here to dry out. But So now let's talk on the inside. So Spiceworks is a community similar to SMB Nation. For folks that don't remember, SMB Nation, we fancy ourselves 50,000 managed services providers. And Spiceworks would be a little different. They're going to be about 5 million IT pros. So an IT pro is someone who's like a system administrator who works for the Boeing company, to give you an example. This year, they have 2,500 attendees, and that's 1,200 organizations. So that's interesting that you have certainly the big boys like ExxonMobil and some colleges and so on. But you also have a lot of individual people coming. So 2,500 attendees. But Kevin, the big news this year, because we covered Spice World last year, the funnest conference in the land. It's the Comic Con of technology conferences. I won't miss it. Just off camera, I actually have my lab coat, medical doctor look for my little costume. But the big news is that Spiceworks was acquired by Ziff Davis. So, Kevin, that's a name that should be familiar to you and a lot of the listeners.
Sure.
Ziff Davis is a global media company, a brand, and they have a division that's called Ziff Davis B2B. And today, Spiceworks confirmed, this was announced some time ago, but now it's all confirmed and locked and loaded, that they've been acquired by Ziff Davis as one of the brands, and it probably now sits within 12 different brands that Ziff Davis has, including Toolbox and is another brand, and so on. That's significant, Kevin. It's good and bad because there are concerns, right? The audience correctly, had the CEO hit it head on about, well, will this change the culture of Spiceworks? Because I would offer Spiceworks is, again, best known for fun, their culture. It's a community where people ask and answer questions. So the CEO replied that we're not changing substantively. It's still going to be run sort of independently out of Austin. We're here to listen. We don't always have the answers, but Spiceworks is predicated upon being an answer form first and foremost. It's a common theme that the CEO proclaimed between both Ziff Davis and Spiceworks is we're dealing with people who are passionate about technology, people who are passionate about technology content. A couple of other cool factoids regarding the merger. Then we'll get into some facts about the state of IT. But basically, they have created an exciting community of, again, several million, I believe 5 million people who do billions of searches monthly. They're up there all day, every day, kind of searching for answers. And he ended on this particular segment about the acquisition by Ziff Davis. He ended about talking about empowering people. Their mission remains to empower people to use technology to transform and improve their organizations, communities each and every day. And Kevin, that's kind of the thematic overview. Other than we still got to get you down here next year. This is a real conference, man. People in dinosaur costumes and you name it.
Well, we'll have to do that. September is actually a great time of year to travel, and as you mentioned, it being in the mid-upper 90s there still, that typically is not the case, but I've traveled to Texas several times. It's always been an enjoyable trip, and I'd love to go there to Spice World.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk some reports. Spiceworks is well known for primary research and survey methods, which again adds to their credibility. And one of the reasons I remain their friend is they've got some smart people on board, and so they released their state of the IT report today. Mm-hmm. And Kevin, this is interesting. So they're talking about IT spend, and I want to take a moment to talk about this. First of all, what always bamboozles me about reports from different organizations is if you count up all the growth that different groups will proclaim. So CompTIA ChannelCon in Las Vegas, where I broadcast live from in early August, they're a trade association, and their job is to talk about polka dots and puppy dog tails and how great everything is, and we're growing infinitely. And I was joking with Jennifer Hallmark back at SMB Nation this morning, Kevin, that I need to make a spreadsheet. And if I added up all the growth in the world that all these organizations talk about, it would literally exceed the human population. You know what I'm trying to get at is everybody's got big numbers, and they're not correlated, they're independent. And I'm going to do a spreadsheet because I'm going to show that, doggone it, we don't have any more room on planet Earth for all this growth.
Yes. So you're saying that people are claiming that they're hitting the stars when in fact they're maybe not necessarily the case.
Yeah. I mean, as the old phrase goes, I'm tired of winning.
Yes.
So state of IT. So here's what they reported today, Spiceworks, that on the budget front, you're going to see an 8% decline in IT spend budget in 2020. 48% holding steady, and you're going to see 44% growth. Now, the reason I took so long to preface what growth means is I mean, I believe in Spiceworks research, right? I don't question their methodology, but Kevin, there's talk about the global economy, the run up in the U.S. debt, the fact we basically haven't had a recession in 12 years. Mm-hmm. Kevin, there are such things called business cycles, and there's one coming. Okay.
Yep.
I hate to break it here on this show. But I don't know if you want to add value to that. I mean, 44% increasing their spend in IT. Again, I'm sure that's what the report found. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I believe it, man. I think we're headed into a cycle. You talk to a lot of people. You do a lot of different shows. What say you over the next year or two, just at the macro level? Just for a moment. What's your feeling about growth and spends and that kind of thing?
Well, I totally agree with you that, first of all, a correction is coming. They're always there. They're unavoidable. And I can tell you that as a statistician, if you think you're going to avoid that downturn and somehow get past it, it isn't going to happen. Even if the trend
probably already started.
Yeah. So even if the trend is in this nice uphill climb and you say, that's a really positive thing, I can tell you from somebody who pays very close attention to even my analytics and everything that I do, that along that trend of going up, if growth is what you're currently experiencing, there's ups and downs in that. So the moment that you see any kind of a tapering in there, those downswings become more prominent as well. And here's what I'd say to what you just shared there with some realism for the business people out there in our community that embrace that realistic view that, yes, there is a downturn coming, being prepared for that, and taking the appropriate actions now. All kinds of millionaires are made in economic downturns because they were realists. They did have an action plan in place, and they grew in spite of a downturn. It's all the people that are the deniers that are pretending like it's not coming and get caught with their pants down, to use a worn-out metaphor, and they get the result that they were hoping unrealistically would not happen but knew was coming, and everybody was telling them. So that's my 10 cents on that, is realize that it is coming, put a plan in place, be ready for it, and man, you can still grow even when a correction is on its way
Oh,
in place.
no, absolutely. And again, I in no way am questioning. I know the research team at Spiceworks. I'm in no way questioning their research. If anything, Kevin, I'm questioning some of the survey respondents. Okay, it's easy to answer. Again, my phrase, polka dots and puppy dog tails. It's easy to say that.
Yep.
But that's what the research shows. I know the research is valid. So, what's driving the budget spends in IT? Well, here's what Spiceworks found. I picked two of them that we can relate to. Number one is upgrades. Number two is security concerns. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about upgrades, here's what's interesting. Here's what they found in the research, that the biggest part of an IT budget, the biggest part of an IT spend is still user hardware. That's 22%. That was news to me. Right? Because Kevin, there, you kind of think, oh, it's all artificial intelligence spin and machine learning and cloud and all that. It's actually not. It's actually in user hardware. And that is a solid number. And I do believe there'll be some spin here, because what Spiceworks found, and Kevin, we're going to do a show on this once I get back to Seattle with a week without a conference. Mm-hmm. But we're going to talk about Microsoft is bringing end of support for Windows 7, Server 08, one or two other products in January of 2020. So that's just 4 or 5 months away. We need to have that talk. That's coming. Mm-hmm. But 79% of the Spiceworks community, again, let's assume about 5 million members, 79% are supporting at least one instance of Windows 7. So let's put it all together. 44% of the respondents predicted IT budget growth. The number one driver is upgrades. The data point that end user hardware is still the biggest part of the budget at 22%, and then nearly 80% of the membership is supporting at least one instance of Windows 7, and Windows 7 reaches end of life into support. Forgive me, in January 2020. Moving on, as they like to say, the technology buying decision process. This was very interesting to me too, that it's 6 to 8 people make a technology buying decision, and it takes 4 to 6 months. And that was new research for me. I was typing madly. And Now, Kevin, this is at the enterprise level, right? So that makes sense that at Boeing, you would have a decision by committee, and it's going to take 4 to 6 months. Absolutely true. You and I live, breathe small business, so we know. Heck, Kevin, I can go out after this show and buy something, a cable or a mouse, right? Mm-hmm. I don't need a committee.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll get to some fun stuff as we start to wrap, but a couple more data points, if you don't mind.
Sure.
60% of the membership in the survey reported that they are on a buying journey. So they are buyers, and they are evaluating more than 2 technologies. And Kevin, that kind of relates to conversations we've had over the last 18 months with this show about today's buyer is already doing so much research online before they even reach out to the vendor and say, hey, I'd like to test drive your printer, right? And in this case, what we're saying is they're talking to at least 2 vendors with printers, maybe Canon and maybe Lexmark. So they're looking at different types of printers.
Sure.
On a buying journey. And I don't know if you want to jump in on that, because, you and I have had this talk, and you could relate it to your time in the automobile industry, that, man, today's buyers come into the parking lot well informed already.
Very, very informed. And for businesses, and you use the car business as an example, it's a very classic one. I've been stunned, and I hope other business models out there that are maybe observing the car industry, that they learn some lessons from this, because one of the interesting part is not only is the client very informed who's walking onto a car lot, and because of people like me and many others that are helping educate them, But not only are they walking onto that lot very informed, but the interesting part is that the car business really has not changed to adapt to that. Like the things that they're still putting in place and the things they're still doing with their clients still show that they believe their client is very ignorant, and it's not the case at all. And it's costing some of these businesses big time to do that. And then the feedback that I will get from some of these people in the industry on my content shows just how much in denial they really are. And I'm not confused at all then why every year when Gallup posts their, the most and least trustworthy professions, that the car salesman ends up tying with a congressman for the least trusted individual on this planet. And it happens because of that pretense or whatever, the denial that the customer is informed as they are. So this transfers over into tech and these other areas. Don't kid yourself. Your customer knows a lot more about your business, about your product than they ever did before, and that is only going to increase as we move forward.
Yeah, and actually, we let me give a hook to last week's show. You'll recall last week I was at GlueX.
Yes.
We interviewed, I believe the gentleman's name was Nadir, and
Nadir Merchant.
that was in Scottsdale. Yep, and one of the themes there was date your customer, and that would speak towards what you're discussing is listening, having awareness. Don't be that husband who doesn't listen to his wife. And so it's interesting as I go from show to show and you see some common themes emerging. All of a sudden we have consensus. Hey, I'm going to end on a fun note. That I would have mentioned it last year, and it's still front and center to the Spiceworks experience, and that is gamification. So gamification is the way Spiceworks speak to the trees, but you get badges, and the way you get badges, and people like badges, Kevin, they put them on their sides. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like the way the military works, right? Where you get the scrambled egg and you get the different decals on your shirt as an officer. Well, what it is here is the more you participate in the Spiceworks community, the more you help, the more you answer questions, you go up this food chain, and the gamification measurement is peppers. And so, you start out as just a little bitty pepper. And I think, by the time you work your way up through the community and, you're answering questions on the forum boards, you get up to a jalapeno, and then you get up to a red chili. And, Kevin, it's cool. And I'm just curious if you have other examples of gamification, maybe even in the car industry, right? Did they have offers and incentives to get the people to sell more, that kind of thing?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. The thing that I would simply say is that those can work extremely well if the follow-up, so once the customer is actually in the system, so to speak, if the follow-up on that client is really rock solid, then that stuff works very, very well. If it's not, people disengage relatively quickly from stuff like that. And so, the car business industry does do a lot of gamification, but the amount of response and real clients coming out of that is so small. I'm not kidding you, Harriet. It's less than 0.1%. The number is minuscule, simply because they know that the game continues beyond that there isn't something of real substance that follows it. So that's all I'd simply say is that, yes, that can work to entice people into the system, but you got to follow it up with some real substance. And I got to give a little shout out here to Spice World in that you've shared a few different statistics of, the attendees and different surveys they've done there. And I think that's great that they have successfully gotten attendees to give them this kind of feedback so that we can talk about it today, because not all of these places do a great job of that. So, hey, share with our viewing audience what we're seeing here on the back screen.
Yeah. So this is a picture I took this morning that just encapsulates the culture. And as you know, I'm really big on behaviors. I guess I'm both a quantitative analytics dude with that startup I did, but also a behavioralist. because I really believe in this kind of stuff. So this is a marching band that, now Austin's well known for music. I took a picture of a board at the convention center that they have over 250 music venues nightly in the greater Austin area. So they say, I don't know about Monday night, but certainly Friday and Saturday night. And so it's known for music. So the morning marching band came through the breakfast hall and got us all to march to the keynote address. So, and Kevin, back to your earlier point, this takes work, right? Mm-hmm. You know, that you have to have people who are paid with the gamification system to keep people engaged with these kind of cultural endeavors. This doesn't happen on its own, man. Trust me. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Kevin Hunter with Harry Brelsford here on Tech Tuesday. Thanks, everyone who joined us, and thanks to Harry Brelsford and SMB Nation for partnering with us and sharing this great update out of Austin, Texas. Till next time, take care.